Welcome everyone. I'm really glad to be here with you today. Can you hear me well? Okay. The guys in last rows, can you raise a hand? Okay, thank you. It's quite weird feeling for me. I used to be in that particular hall many times, but never so long staying back to the screen. Usually taking the middle rows. My name is Grzegorz Gubiński. I'm Agile Smagile coach at Sabre. I'm fan of military sci-fi, mech tech pilot, ex-coder, owner of St. Bernard dog. I'm speaking sometimes on some events. During that talk, I'm gonna share and describe experiment we did at Sabre with some teams. That experiments consist elements of evidence-based management and 4 disciplines of executions. And the title of the talk reflects the part I really like the most in that experiment. Before I will go into details, let me share some story. September 2009, as a quite young Scrum Master, I start to introduce retrospective meetings in my team, which was quite successful. I got really good feedback from, positive feedback from my teammates. Actually, all meetings ended up with actionable results, and we start to do some improvements. Unfortunately, after a few another iterations, it turns out that the perception of the retrospective meeting in my team is changing, and the overall feeling is not so good as it used to be at the beginning. So I take a closer look to the data we had, and I discovered some interesting facts, and I decided to provoke my team to do retrospective over retrospective, which they did. So what we discovered, we were quite good at delivering stuff. So if we decide to do some actions, some tasks, usually we delivered this along with the software within the iteration. But if it comes to the working agreements, our behavior, we were not so good. Actually, we failed miserably. That experience at that point was hard for me, and I haven't good answer what to do. Actually, I have a lot of questions after this analysis. What was the most important? That was the 2 of them. Which habits are right ones, and how we will know that we will stick with them long enough to see consequences of our actions, or we actually develop habit. So, answer for the first question seems to be quite easy. Which are the right ones, in my opinion? Those which helps us to deliver, to achieve goals that matter the most. But as in every complex system, when we answer one question, we will discover another few. So the next question is how to find really important goals. And this is first step. And the answer that came with one of coaches I have a pleasure to work with was evidence-based management for software organization. Have you heard about this? Please raise a hand. Okay, it's quite new. Actually, that's the movement developed by Scrum.org guys that start to think about changing organizations and how to introduce more agility to the software development world. The movement was inspired by evidence-based medicine. The concept of evidence-based medicine, very modern medicine approach, is quite simple. We need to take a look on health indicators of human body, like, I don't know, temperature, blood pressure, some blood tests, brain activity, and so on and so on. Then if we monitor it, we can apply procedures or drugs, and then assess if the treatment works in the direction we would like to have. So similar approach is taken by evidence-based management. The question is, what is equivalent of blood test for software organizations? How to measure health of an organization? So they come up with 3 pillars, 3 group of metrics, which can be very helpful. First group, current value. So if your company have good revenue per head, per employee, it's obviously a good thing. It means simply that people are, every person counts. Most likely, every person is doing what they should to do to deliver value to the customer. Product cost ratio, the overall costs of the activity, starting from salaries, including everything like office maintenance and coffee supplies. So total cost of business activities. Employee satisfaction. We can imagine a good, maybe not good, company that have great revenue per head, have lower costs because they keep their salaries low, and employees are not satisfied. How likely that company survive for a long time? Not really. The same about customer satisfaction. So we can imagine a situation when the company have right now good revenue, good cost ratio, every employee is satisfied and engaged, but the customers are not. That company also won't survive most likely too long. But it's current value. Another set, time to market. 4, recently 4 was added. 4 measurements, release frequency, which is obvious, I guess, for everyone. If we are, as a company, are able to deliver big releases, meaning the meaningful releases, not bug fixing frequently, then the time the customer needs to wait for interesting functionality is short. Release stabilization. Very often there is pattern that people are coders, or even so almost cross-functional teams consist coders and testers delivering stuff fast, but there is a long cycle of testing and and so on, which doesn't help. Cycle time and on-product index. On-product index is actually something that can show how many, how average developer or tester or a person in the company is engaged in which activities, in which projects. So the best value is 1. As David says in the previous talk, context switching is too costly. And the third group, ability to innovate. There is many examples of companies that were screwed by lack of ability to innovate. They still exist. Some of them still exist, like Microsoft, who overslept internet and mobile stuff, and they try to catch up to these days. There is Nokia, which simply lose the market when smartphones arrives. So, index of installed version index. How many different versions of software you install? Most likely, if you have more than 1, more than 2, you are spending on old releases your capacity. Innovation rate is a budget spent for new development. Usage index is number of functionalities that are really are important for customers and defects. So those 3 areas consist agility index, which is the number, but the most important thing about those all metrics I'm talking about is boring, I know. But the most important stuff is that they will show the big picture even for single team. Developers usually don't care about, okay, it's not fair. I know many developers that don't know if their customers are satisfied because they don't know their customers. So that 12 metrics can trigger discussion on the product level or even on the single team level to see the health of the organization and potential places to do some changes, potential places for goals that matters. Because every company is different, it's obvious. It's hard to find the common goal, but one bottom line is the same for every company on the world. They want to survive, they want to live, they want to thrive. I don't know any company who want to do that. So that's the set of metrics that are not easy to game and can be really useful for starting discussion what the company or products should do next in terms of improvements. However, that answer will trigger another questions. So how to make changes and make improvements if your team, your guys in your team are really busy? How to motivate them to do some changes? How to tackle lack of alignment? Because everyone in the company is a part of the system. So as a part of the system, a single developer, single tester, even the assistant can influence system. It is true. However, this influence is tiny if it's not aligned with what other people are doing. This effort will be most likely knocked down and will not bring any good results. So alignment is one thing. Another thing is ability to see long-term consequences. Because as we know, there is a big difference, and there are big goals, and how to see. And even this is a challenge: how to see our daily action, how our daily actions are connected with those big goals. And 4 disciplines of execution actually help us to tackle these questions. It's simple 4-step process containing focus on widely important goals, acting on leading measures. I will explain leading and lagging measures in the next slide. Keep compiling scoreboards, big visible charts to show the current state, and create cadence of accountability. So, what those weeks which we're supposed to focus might be based on agility index metrics I shown a while ago. Not necessarily have to be that, but I think it's a good starting point. Let's imagine a hypothetical company. To make it more tangible, the company can decide after examination this agility index metrics, we want to decrease cycle time by 20% and specifically address stabilization by 50%. Sounds good, but still it's big, and for single developer it might be very difficult to see how they can change that. And one important thing on that step, widely important goal should be a single important goal. Might be, sometimes it's good to have 2. 3 is very risky, and more than 4 and more will be the plan for disaster. So while applying this in practice, people should focus on the 1 goal or 2 goals at most. Next step is act on leading indicators and watch lagging. I owe you explanation about what's the difference between those 2. And I'm gonna use metaphor of losing weight. If you want to lose weight, it's very easy to calculate the current state. You just take the step and see, okay, it's 80 kilograms, 5 too much. But even the measurements, this measure is consequence of our actions. It's consequence of our health, of our daily activities, what we are eating every day. It's not so. It's not very easy to achieve this minus 5 kilograms because it's the consequence. It's the lagging indicator that is very easy to measure, and usually lagging indicators are. But also the leading indicators. Those are easy to act on, but not necessarily easy to calculate, easy to quantify. There is also hypothesis that connects all those 3 things, meaning those our diet, number of activities we have, and the final weight. The hypothesis is simple and obvious, I guess, for all of you, but I will say it aloud. The more physical activities we have, and the best diet we can apply to ourselves, then our health will be better. if you would like to calculate calories, it will be nightmare. I tried at some point of my life, and calculation took me more time than eating itself. So it's not the best way. But what I can do very easily to keep this example going is to calculate. This is saying that food should be colorful. The number of colors I ate on my breakfast, my dinner, and so on and so on. That's easy. It's not very precise and not guarantee that we will eat healthy. It is still we should be responsible to do this responsibly and not to game the system, but it's our own indicator. Also, calculating number of calories burned during the physical exercises is nightmare. But you can simply decide to, I don't know, use number of kilometers you walk or you run. It's also quite easy to calculate, but still not precise. So having these leading and lagging indicators help us, but it's most important, you need to create hypothesis that connects those two things. Creation, maybe it's not the best choice of words, actually, to explain, because those hypotheses are not hypotheses in the sense of scientific experimentation, but that's the explanation of our beliefs, how we perceive how our world is working. So, taking the example of hypothetical company, they can, for example, have hypothesis that matters to them. Long release stabilization is caused by unstable testing environment, and this is in turn connected to bad architecture and many bugs discovered late in the process, which in turn is connected to lack of our focus on unit testing during the sprint. That hypothetical hypothesis, I would say. So based on that, the next step is to calculate, to decide actions the team would like to take. It might be, for that example, one of the actions, pairing with test-driven development. So how to calculate, it's actionable. It's our hypothesis that it will improve the big metrics. It helps us to achieve big goals. And of course, we can be right and we can be wrong. But what matters the most is, as David says, keep going with experimentation and trying new things. When you have this action decided on the team level, and it's important, I didn't say this yet. If you have multiple teams, big product, and big goal, it should be not given to the team. It should be presented. It's something that we would like to achieve, guys, but on every single team, the team members should decide, okay, can we, so the question should be, what as a team we can do to support our leaders' goal? How we can frame the goal of our leaders to make it important also for us. So if the team doesn't care about something, they can can do something different and take different approach. The context matters the most. So when the team decides of our own widely important goal, which somehow maps to the widely important goal of the company, of the product, then they can create hypotheses, then decide about the experiment actions to be taken, and then the next step is to calculate, to come up with some indicators. I'm advisedly using word indicators, not metrics on that level, because it's something that indicates that it might be, we might go in right direction or not. We will never know till some time. We will probably won't know after a few cycles when our big goals, metrics start to change. So for our hypothetical example, we can come up with two indicators. One describes effects of the efforts, like sonar, code coverage, and cyclomatic complexity for every new code checked in. It's easy to calculate because the machine, your CI will probably do that for you. It's just a way to check this out. And the behavior for this pairing, we can come up, that's again one of many examples. It's the creative stuff to be done, is number of people in the team divided by number of tasks in progress every day. So if you are using an iterative approach to development and you are doing daily scrums, daily stand-ups, on that meeting you can check the fact how many people we have, how many tasks are in progress. And the goal can be, for example, ideally 2, so every 2 people are working on one task, but goal can be a little lower, like 1.8, for example. So if you come up with all this, you need to create scoreboards. Scoreboards are big visible charts. Supposed to use it every day. So one of the examples based on the Sabre team is that there is one burn down for goals they have. Let me check. So the widely important goal was deliver with higher predictability, 18% threshold every sprint. And the hypothesis was if we start less stories in order to focus in finishing stuff within iteration, then we will increase acceptance rate. So acceptance rate was tracked sprint by sprint, but the behavior was tracked every day. Every day calculate number in progress divided by number of people. And their goal was to keep it below 2. That was an example, and this is very important stuff. That was my epiphany regarding this developing right habits or developing it successfully. What on my team in 2009, I was not able to do and to see was the everyday activity. It was easy for tasks. So it's either to do or in progress or done. But the simple advice I can give you is for every working agreement you decided to create in your team or anything that reflects behavior, you can create a kind of game around it and have scoreboards, have maybe gather some points. So employ this basic thing right now, gamification. Still, the most important thing is to visualize and discuss on a regular basis. And the last point in this entire for disciplines of execution process is create cadence of responsibility, accountability. This is a crucial part. Without this, without referring to the scoreboards, for example, every day, most likely you will not develop any habits at all, except keeping those which are already present in your team. So the first step for person who wants to change, team leader, I don't know, manager, scrum master, the person who really care about this, is to create shared responsibility. Discuss all this stuff together and decide together. There is no other way to convince people to be engaged in anything. They need to have a chance to discuss this. They need to have a chance to air their doubts, to say no, to get convinced or not. And the next thing is support, urge, and ask every day. So without consistency in the team, checking the scoreboards every single day, asking the question, another set of questions during the team meetings, like how we are doing with our working agreements, how we are doing with our scoreboards, what we can try next on daily basis to keep it running. Without all of this, it will not gonna happen. So, five tips, very important, summarizing this entire stuff. Find a compelling goal and related measure. So if you don't have a really good goal, people won't follow. If they don't care, they won't follow. So find something that really matters. Try something that convinces them. Show. So if the goal is bold, maybe not shooting the moon, but something very important for the company, for the product, show them context. One way is to provide this agility index metrics and be consistent. Give them all information they need to see big picture. So big goals equals big pictures. Without this, it will be very hard to convince them. Be clear about your hypothesis, both on product level as well as on the team level. The worst thing I've seen when I tried to apply this or similar approaches was not to explain to ourselves our own beliefs. It hinders our ability to see, to overcome our blind spots. So if we will write it down, it's very important for me to put this hypothesis on the paper and let everyone see it and agree or disagree, modify till everyone on the team is on the same page. Most likely we will have different understanding. Third thing, create an indicator easy to calculate. You should not spend a lot of time on doing calculations. It's about creating experiment and some indicators that will help you to assess if you are on track. And this also, I should say before, that's important part. on this this one scoreboard is equivalent of release, bear down, or burn up. We can check if final average result from our sprint mapped somehow is correlated with changes with our big goals, big measures. So that's the key point when we come to the decision if the okay, every experiment should be successful. You learn something, but not every experiment you will have will bring you the outcomes you expected. So that's the way to check if there is correlation with your actions. Your hypothesis is maybe right, but with the overall situation. As a team, control on daily basis to get into habit. I will repeat it again and again. Entire team should be involved, and that check should be done as often as possible. I can imagine some indicators that can be tracked weekly, not necessarily every day, but then the feedback loop is long, and you will lose a lot of information, a lot of opportunities to act or do something differently or plan something in the way you will be able to do this experiment, to deliver this experiment to its end. Check if the new behavior impacts the goal. Actually, I said it a while ago. And at the most important thing, have fun. Without this, you will never impact people. Okay, too strong word. It's hard to impact people behavior when you will try to be deadly serious. Of course, sometimes it's important if your product, your company is on the edge of collapse, maybe it's not a time for having a lot of fun, but in most other cases, try to make it fun for people. Give them, if you can, some prize. Celebrate all successful days somehow. Celebrate team engagement. And again, please do this not on a personal level, but on a team level. That's the most, one of the most important part of successful changing people behavior. Thank you. So I plan to finish earlier. It's like 10 minutes to go. So I guess it's time for questions if you have any. Or we will have some handicap on the queue because the lunch break is coming. So up to you. You can ask me a question, or you can go and save the good place for lunch right now. So thank you for being with me for 30 minutes and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.